I'm Justin Davis, and this is Joe Camp's RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis. Thanks for checking out another review. Today we're going to review the Baby QAV105 that I call it the baby version, because right here, if you're new to FPV, you might not recognize what you're looking at right here. This is the original QAV180 from Luminaire, and let's just turn it to the side and you'll see that iconic sort of truck bed type body straight through the middle of this X frame. And at the time when this came out, it was super awesome because we had plenty of room on here to put whatever we wanted. And at the time, most of us were still running ESCs out on the arms here. As you can see, no 401 ESCs yet. They were just coming around the corner at the time, and still popular at the time was the Emax 2205s that I have on here. And I have one of those Luminaire 1200 cameras on here. But I really like this frame. I've adored it for a long time, and I've kept it in pretty good condition. I have crashed it quite a bit, and it's been pretty durable. But the Baby QAV just came to my attention just this week, and so I had to get a hold of one and show it to you guys. There it is. There is the Baby QAV, and I'll just put the original one right next to it right here. And this one is obviously inspired by the original one. Now, I wouldn't really say it's a clone. There's a ton of frames out there that are very similar. It's not exactly the same, so it's not like they stole this design on the right and shrunk it down, because there are some differences here with this frame. It's not completely the same, so guys, don't freak out. It's just inspired by the QAV. And it has some pretty cool stuff on here. It actually has a RunCam micro in the front. It has an awesome Omnibus F3 flight controller with a VTX on the top. And I believe we're running 25 milliwatt off this dipole right here. Obviously, I always like to see 200 milliwatt if we could get it. But this snaps on and off. I put a little bit of hot glue in there, actually a lot of hot glue, and just to hold it in there for some of my flight tests for you guys. But what I was super excited about, besides the run cam and the cool frame on this one, was the fact that it did have 1105 Aurora motors on here. So Aurora RC 7000 kV motors are pretty decent on 2 to 3S. Now, you do have two options to top mount a battery on here. Actually, there's a little rubber band that comes with it, which I cut off, and I'm just using a strap, a little Velcro strap across the bottom, and a piece of Velcro there to bottom mount mine, because even on my original one, my QAV over here, I run the battery on the bottom. That's just, depends, just happens to be where I like my batteries to run on my X frames. Now, I did see on their site that this one comes plug and play, which means you could get it with no receiver, and I think that one is around the $150 mark, but I think there's a coupon you can use that'll make it quite a bit less than that. I think like 18% off or something. Also, DSMX guys, you can get one for Spectrum receivers, and for the FrSky guys, you can get one for AF-HDS and the AF-HDS 2A version as well. And of course the FrSky version, which I have right here. Now, just underneath that awesome F3 Omnibus flight controller, you do have 10 amp ESCs under here. Those are 4-in-1 10 amp ESCs, and they're also BL Heli, also supporting D-Shot on here. Now, what's also cool is they did include 2 sets of Gemfan props inside there as well, because when you spool these up, they're actually super smooth and quiet sounding. And I have flown this flight controller before, so I was kind of expecting like a pretty smooth experience out of the awesome F3. I've had several different awesome quadcopters, and this one is interesting that they did include it on there, because it's not branded as an awesome, it just uses the awesome component in here. But one of the biggest features of the original QAV was the fact that it did have these sidewalls for protecting your camera. And at the time, we had a lot of issues with breaking cameras and having cameras too exposed. And the idea of the QAV design was really to recess the camera back from where you had the front 2 bars there to protect the lens in a forward crash, and something on each side to protect it from side, top, and plenty of protection on the bottom here. What we have on the carbon fiber though so far is we have 3K carbon fiber, we have 2 mil on the bottom, and this is a unibody, by the way, it's not detachable arms, and then we have a 1 mil top plate. And I'm expecting that parts for this would probably be out in a few weeks after its initial release. After you're able to buy these, usually it takes a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most, to get parts in stock for these types of quads. And if you look at it from the side, the original QAV had 3 different aluminum standoffs. This one only has 2. So to get this top plate off is really simple. I had to pull it off last night to bind up my receiver and get everything situated. I actually put a new piece of VHB underneath the receiver itself because I didn't like the kind that comes with it. So 4 screws, pop the top, very simple there. And originally it came with a red JST on the bottom, which I took off and I put an XT30 on there, mainly because I feel like these give a little better power to the power system and help just give you a little better boost, and maybe you won't have those spin of death into the ground as well. And also, guys, you want to set the motor idle on this one to 10 or higher. That's going to make sure that you don't flip and have the roll of death into the ground. Now mine did a couple times, but I think it was because my battery was getting a little bit low in voltage. If you have sort of a low voltage sag, it seems like these will reset. So if you have a nice high rated C battery, that will help keep you in the air. Now if you've never seen these props before, these props are actually super durable. These are the ones I used in my flight test. You can see there's a little bit of dirt on these. Just bring it in close and get it to focus for you. A little bit of dirt from the field, and I bent these to about 90 degrees. They bent all the way down just like that. Look at that. And then you can just take your thumb and bend it right back to where it was. Make sure they're all straight. Just bend them until you see them straight. And then once they're all straight around, coming around in a circle, you can get it back in the air. Now, for the new guys, this is probably one of the most important parts of this entire design. Now, if you burn out a motor, if one of your motors goes bad, if you need to pull this ESC off here and you needed to swap out this ESC, this 4-in-1 ESC, some guys say, hey, I don't like to fly 4-in-1 ESCs. If I lose one ESC, then I have to get a whole new board and I have to do all the soldering back over. Well, you don't have to do any soldering on this ESC setup. These plug in right behind, right here, and there's 2 up front in this very front section right here. So you don't have to do any soldering on motor wires. It's kind of amazing. And the flight controller itself, there's no soldering on that either. That just snaps down on top of the ESCs, and there is a little power plug right here, which just plugs into the bottom. Pretty neat. Now, one thing that I think is pretty cool is that it does have Betaflight OSD on here. So you can go in there and you can change up your pilot name on there. You can move things around on the screen, and you can also display battery voltage and crosshairs and all that cool stuff. So if you're just getting into this, it totally supports Betaflight OSD, and it's very modular. Now it also has that built-in VTX on the back here with that dipole coming out right here, and this VTX is actually 48 channels. So you have plenty of bands on here. You have 6 different bands, and there's a little tiny button right here. If you press this button just behind the receiver right here, you can switch through your bands. If you long press it, 3 seconds, or if you short press it, you can change the channels 1 through 8 on each band. Now, aside from being cute and having a lot of cool features and OSD and BOHeli ESCs and all that good stuff, Gemfan props, Aurora motors, it is actually quite light. It's 55 grams with the props on, and that means that it's going to have a really nice power to weight ratio. So it's going to have tons of punch out and plenty of float, even for a little tiny quad. Okay, so that's about it. That's enough drooling over the QAV105, guys. I've already had people messaging me on Facebook because I put some pictures up of it earlier, asking if they could have this one. I'm not even sure I'm going to get rid of this one. I really like this one a lot, and I've already flown it, so I have a real hard time wanting to get rid of this one. So check out the link down below. You can pick one of these up, and I believe if you use the coupon, it'll make it under $150, so a little more expensive than a Babyhawk, but also at the current time way cooler because it does have a lot of cool stuff on here too, and upgraded motors as well, so in a pretty decent frame. So it seems to have a little bit of everything. So let's go outside and give it a flight test. All right, guys, here we are with the little tiny version of the QAV. This is the 105 millimeter, and has 1105 motors on here, so I'm kind of excited about that. I think it's going to fly pretty well. And with the little run cam micro in here, makes it extra nice as well. So I'll go ahead and fire it up and get it up in the air for you guys. So do a little line of sight, then we'll do some FPV. And I went ahead and, as you can see, I upgraded that to an XT30 instead of that JST. Maybe I could save some of those flips of death, but we'll see how it flies line of sight. Here we go. It's pretty quiet. I tested it in my shop, and it was really quiet inside. Do a little punch out. Wow, super quiet. I'm in acro right now, so do a couple flips here. Big loop. A little bit hard to see today, it's kind of overcast. Pretty punchy motors though. Very punchy for 2S. These Gemfans are so quiet compared to cheaper props. They've been including Gemfans on a lot of these micros lately, so I think they're listening to what people like out there, so that's kind of cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and set it down. Maybe I'll fly the rest of this battery on FPV. Here we go. Come back in and land, and I'll goggle up.